Hello, amazing art students. Today we're going to create a work of art based on inspiration from an artist named Wenzel Hablik. Hablik was an artist from Czechoslovakia who is famous for a style of art known as German Expressionism. We're going to get inspired by our universe and add a lot of details and texture to our work to create a really fantastic universe of your own. One of the supplies that you're going to find in the supply drawer is a white colored pencil. I want you to use that colored pencil to be sure and add your name and your class code to your paper. If you don't know what that is, check your folder. It should be on the top of your folder. The first step in creating this after adding your name and class code is to use the larger piece of black paper to make a white spiral. I like to hold my chalk sideways, and it really doesn't matter if you have a large piece or a small piece. I'm going to create a spiral right here in the middle of my paper. Some people like to create concentric circles, which is basically a circle inside another circle inside another circle. So if you decide to do a spiral or a concentric circle, either one is okay with me. You just want to color this on very lightly. After you've done that, you're going to add a few more colors of your choice. I believe you have a little bit of blue, you've got some purple, you might even have some pink. If you don't, go to one of the other tables and check. I know at least one group does have pink in their tray. So I might even add a little bit of purple. Once I've done that, I'm just going to smooth that out just a little bit, not back and forth, but just a gentle blending of the colors just slightly, not touching them really more than once or twice. But you don't want them to blur together. You still want to be able to see the individual colors. And they don't have to be blended perfectly. If they look sort of fuzzy, that's okay. Once you've done that, I want you to take one of the smaller slips of paper, and you can either cut or tear a shape that's going to be a mountain. It's going to sit at the bottom of your paper. Here's one I started here, and I just did it by tearing it. And it's really not going to look just like mine or anyone else's. Don't worry about that. Just tear it, or use your scissors if you need to tear it into the shape of a mountain. And then you're going to lay it right down on the top of your paper. I have it flush with the bottom so that when I lift it off, all of this down here is still going to be pretty black. So I'm going to lay it right here on the top, and then I'm going to grab that white chalk again and add some lines that are going to almost look like little hairs coming right off, and you want them sort of close together, and a bunch of them. And when you're finished, this stencil that you made, you can also add purple and pink to that as well if you like. So I'll add a little bit of pink, maybe not quite as much, since I want white to really stand out the most, but I'll add a little bit of purple too. Okay, and then I'm going to lift the stencil off of my paper. Oh wait, I forgot one step. Before I lift the stencil off my paper, I'm going to use my index finger, or you can use 2 fingers if you wish, and I'm just going to sort of push this chalk off of the stencil onto the paper, where I'm sort of pushing some of that dust onto the paper, but I'm also smoothing out the lines that I made. And then I'm going to lift the stencil off the paper. Now, you're still going to be able to see some of your spiral here. If you don't like that, you're welcome to go ahead and glue the stencil down if you don't want it to show up. I'm going to leave mine like this. The rest is totally up to you. Once that stencil is either glued on or out of the way, your next step is to take white paint and this paintbrush, which you'll find in the box, to create some little splatters that are going to look kind of like stars. I want you to do this over the trash can although I'm going to do it here on the table. That's why I have this background to protect the table from all the white paint. It only takes a little bit, oops, and I just got a little bit. So that's a good example of about how much I need, maybe even less than that. And then I'm just going to take my finger and pull on the paintbrush just a little until I get a few splatters of paint. Okay, once I've got that done, and you will have cleaned your hands, and do clean your brush if you're the last person at your table to use it. So now we've smudged the color on behind the stencil. We've added a splattering of white paint over the project, and now we're going to use these different size stencils and this painted paper to create some planets. 3 to 4 should be plenty. One of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that if you have a smaller piece of paper, use the stencil that fits it the best. You wouldn't want to take a small one like this, which would actually work kind of perfectly on this painted paper, and use it on a giant piece of painted paper, because then you'd have all of this wasted paper. This is just a little bit of waste. This isn't too bad. But if you've wasted a whole piece, then that can be bad. So the smaller stencils go with the smaller papers, and the larger stencils go with your larger papers. If you have a problem with a color, you can't find quite the color you need, maybe you wanted something like this, check one of the other tables that also has a supply drawer similar to yours. They may have the color that you're looking for. I always ask students to put the stencil on the back of the paper and go ahead and trace it. So when you trace it on the back, it's a little easier to see. And then you're not going to have those lines on the front of yours, just in case you cut incorrectly, or in case your pencil goes off, or in case, like in the case of this planet stencil, it's cut or uneven. You can sort of correct that whenever you're going here. I do ask that students don't hold the stencil and cut around it, because frequently we get into a big hurry, and then you can see, like on this stencil right here, how the edge has been cut off. That was cut off by someone holding and cutting like this. So please don't do that. Please instead trace it first. And when you get your planet cut out, you're going to, just for now, place it where you think you might want it to go. So I may want it over here to cover up that edge, or I may not like what happened over here, so I'm going to cover that, or I may want it right in the middle. You're just going to sort of work on laying things out the way that you want them first, so that you can decide on your composition before you glue everything down permanently. So for now, I'm just going to put this here, and I'm going to add a couple of more stencils.